Hi everybody, my name is Julie Myers and today we are going to learn about the social economical connections between bald eagles, biodiversity, and their near extinction as well as their incredible comeback. So what this is, a social economical model, is basically a map that shows us the components that combine together lead to one another to create this situation and the positive and negative feedbacks of those situations. So let's get started. Let's start with environmental factors. The environmental factors that we have here include climate change. Now what climate change does is extreme droughts, high winds can affect nesting, intense heat can also affect breeding patterns, migration patterns, things like that. Water pollution is a huge one. Water pollution affects a wide variety of species. The water pollution works like this. When the fish are in the water and the water is polluted, the fish are polluted. Then the bald eagles eat the fish and they're polluted. And down here in the corner I have two sets of letters here. DDT and PCBs. What these two are is chemicals. The DDT is an insecticide that was developed after World War II and widely used, and that inadvertently caused water contamination, which not only killed fish and aquatic life, but killed birds that ate the fish. PCBs is an industrial chemical used widely. It was used widely in industrial settings. These two chemicals were eventually banned in the United States. The PCBs were banned in 1979, and DDT was banned in 1972. However, these are referred to as legacy contaminants. And what that means is that their effects stay in the soil, the air, the water, long after these chemicals have stopped being used. Just for an example, PCBs were found recently in the blood and tissue of Great Lakes wildlife. And as I said just a second ago, this substance was banned in 1979. So, 40 plus years later, these chemicals are still having an effect on the wildlife where they were used. Okay, let's move on. We have anthropogenic interactions. What this is human activity. It's just basically human activity. Hunting. In early America, the eagles were perceived as a scavenger bird that were detrimental to livestock, farmers, and other, small wildlife. Not true, and hunting bald eagles was part of the Bald and Golden Eagle Act of 1940. And this is when really the conservation to bring the eagles back started. The Bald and Golden Eagle Act of 1940, you can find links for that everywhere. And what that basically says is that the bald and the golden eagles are protected. You cannot disturb them. You cannot move their nests. You cannot interact with them at all. The best you can do is watch them from a distance, and any disruption to their lives is against the law. So that's a mental note. This comes back to part of these intervention measures that we want to talk about. The cost of conservation to bring back the population of bald eagles has been astronomical. They estimate $50,000 a year at least just to protect these birds. So, that's no pocket change. It's a serious expense to restore water, to reverse biodiversity loss. Biodiversity loss is what we refer to as deforestation, things like that. When somebody comes in and wipes out an entire woods or forest to put up a housing addition, that's biodiversity loss. When you take away their places to live, when you take away their migration paths, when you take away their food. You provide an unsuitable ecosystem for them to live in, and they will move on. Or they will starve to death, or they will be killed. So, I mean, it's very important that we spend this money to conserve them, and we reduce our biodiversity loss, and we do what we can to reverse climate change. We stop polluting the water. I mean, these are all things that can be done and are being done to repopulate our nation's symbol, the most majestic bird you can think of. And they put up eagle cams, the Protection Acts again. These eagle cams, there are 6 of them listed nationwide. You can find them, and maybe more by now. There's also a link in my citations page for that. I think that pretty much covers most of it. Rehabilitation, there are sanctuaries nationwide that will take hurt, wounded birds and rehabilitate them. Some can be released back into the environment, some cannot. Well, those are things you're going to learn about in science class. So what I'm hoping to get from this is to inspire you guys to learn a little bit more about what it takes to protect an animal. And they're important because they're a keystone species, and if you have eagles in your area as a keystone species, that means you have a well-balanced ecosystem, which is the goal for all biologists, scientists, environmentalists. We all just want one thing, and that is a well-balanced ecosystem. So I hope you got a lot from this, and I'm going to switch really quickly, add a couple of notes. This is my citations and acknowledgments. These are the sites that I got my information from. You can look these up. You can watch the eagle cams online any time of day, any day of the week, which I think is really, really cool. And maybe that'll bring you a little bit closer to how beautiful and amazing these birds are and why we need to protect them so badly. So thank you for listening. Have a great night.